Hello again, dear viewers, and welcome to this last review of the year. One might wonder if there have been too many of these Optima machines. There really are many. Yes, I think mine are 13 so far, but as many as there are, none of them are completely identical to one another. This is part of the extraordinary charm of these machines. They can be called rough, they can be called outdated, given that they are based on a chassis from the 50s and remain in this design from this Optima M14 here in the 60s, 70s and 80s with minimal changes. But it is not only the technological advancements and design that create stories. This is my first Optima M14. I empathize the word first, and it is probably already clear that here, as with the other members of the family, there are variations. I will also present the other variation of the M14 later, but for now let's focus on this one. At first glance, it doesn't look much like the M12, which I introduced last time and mentioned that it uses the same chassis. This is the main secret of these chassis. The ability to design a completely different body for it, which makes the machine look completely different, but in fact the chassis is the same. If we turn the machine from downside, we can see the four nuts with which the new metal body is attached to the chassis. Oh yeah, and other thing. Where are the springs? That's also a thing about the Optima M10, M12, M14, M16, Dauro Optima M16, Dauro 20, Robotron 20 and Robotron 24 family. The springless design. The rubber feet are not only all the way, which is the same on the Dauro Optima M16, also unlike those of the M10 and M12, are attached to the chassis, not to the attaching points between the chassis and the body. And the carriage, although the same, is well lined in a completely new way, so it is difficult to recognize that it is the same. The only thing that is repeated from the M10 through the M12, M14, M16, Dauro Optima M16 and Dauro 20 models is the typical placement of the ruler in the sheet bed. The rear metal panel of the carriage can be removed, and under it you can see the mechanisms of the lever that serves to return the tabs to their original position, as well as the margin mechanisms and the cloth noise insulation, which is presented on all inner side of the body as on the M12, on M14 and most of the Dauro Optima M16 machines. But it is not included in the Optima M16, Dauro 20 and Robotrons 20 and 24. You can also see one of the two distinctive designs of the knobs with this cone shape. As with the M10, M12 and Dauro Optima M16, here the carriage release buttons are on both the left and the right side. The typical way of folding the lever, as with all generations and variations from the M10 to the Robotron 24, the release of the gear on the left, the release of the paper on the right, everything is in its standard familiar places. Unfortunately, with this carriage, all three plastic levers were broken and missing, but as far as everyday needs are concerned, you can completely do without them. The covering uses the familiar M16 scheme, using only one, in this case light grey color. The cover is the same as with the M16, with the difference that here the Optima logo is engraved, not stamped on a metal plate. Another important detail is that the plastic panels on the side of the carriage and the slide are entirely metal here, before being replaced with plastic ones on the M16 model. On the left and right of the keyboard you can also see what is missing here compared to the Optima M16, namely the scroll selectors for pressure on the left and color selector on the right. There is no pressure selector here, just like on the M10 and M12, and the one for color is the same as on the M12 with this key on the top right. There should be a window in the cover to see the positions of the disc, as is the case with the M10 and M12 models, and the other type of cover for the M14 model, but this cover here does not have such a window, and the same one was used on a non-very well-known early generation of the M16 model, which is practically the M14 but with the new scroll selectors on the left, right and right of the keyboard, and the slight differences in the color combination. Something almost repetitive compared to the M12 model that I showed last time. The different type of rollers on the bar, and it itself is thicker, more massive and not round in shape. Oh yes, I forgot something, actually 3 things. Unlike the M16 and its subsequent models, here the plastic surrounding of the keyboard is completely cut out around the spacebar. The other difference is that these, let's call them plastic windows, are attached to the chassis, which is the same for the earliest M16 with all the same, but the color and the pressure selectors, and for the Optima M16. The latest carriage design with the newest knobs and release button only on the right look different, as you can see here on the Robotron 20. And last but not least, here you can see these thin sheets of sheet metal that fill the cut holes in the carriage slide. Something repeated in the M10, M12 and M14 model, and some Darrow Optima M16, and missing on the M16 some Darrow Optima M16, Darrow 20, Robotron 20 and Robotron 24 models. This is actually a pretty smart solution, preventing dust from entering the machine, which is probably the weakest point of this design. I'm glad we are together again. Thank you for your attention. I wish you a happy and successful new year, and see you on the other calendar.